Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 23rd of July. Again, this is part of that slow creep, but we had the really big news coming out that Japan has agreed uh, on a new trade deal with set tariff and that. That is going to be a nightmare going forward for the EU, and that simply because it's unlikely that Canada or the EU are going to meet the target deadline by August 1st because they think that they can outweigh it. But Japan protecting themselves by making the deal means they're going to have their imports for cars, everything, as a known quantity now. That isn't going to be the case for the European market, and that's just trouble for them waiting to happen. You have a choice. You can buy any car you want. It doesn't have to be a European. You can pay more for what their tariffs are going to be, but you don't have to. That's why tariffs aren't inherently inflationary. Try to explain that to anybody. That's the simplest way to view it. Currently, though, magenta over yellow, clean mind. But you can see short activity active, but cyan under red on the DOC. We don't even have to discuss it after years and years. Under red is always buying now. That being said, that range between the 76 and 100% is starting to narrow a little bit. And now you've kind of exceeded the last area right here, which we had the slate yellow uh, increases. So even a return back to the 76% would just be to fill those in place, and they're going to continue to rise the longer this goes. What will impact it? Well, obviously, if they decide to, somehow return indictments against the Fed. I know they've got their meeting coming up where they're going to the building to check out the renovations of this $2.5 billion they're spending on the building. You would have thought that they would have built a campus bigger than Apple's for that kind of money, but we have to see it to know what they're doing. From an NQ standpoint, yeah, a little bit softer. Of course, you've got the earnings, all that. Everybody's focused on that. But not a whole lot of people are all that active in shorts. And of course, everyone's talking about the resurgence back in the meme stocks. Whatever, you can play with that as you will. Readings are good for it, but those are all just speculative games, and that's just a reflection of how bored most people are at this particular stage of the market behavior, because this slow belt up just drives them nuts. That's just the way it works. People like dramatic moves, not slow and steady, because everyone knows that it's only going to take one day to remove everything that's been built up over this last time. Treasuries, again, it continues to be a problem. You're getting no movement. Some softness here from oil, but all it is staying right around the same plateau in the mid 60s. Not helpful in any way, shape, or form, but also not harmful. So the euro, had been climbing up here on a resurgence, but this lack of a trade deal, they're confused, and that's fine because I always like to take advantage of when they make critical errors, and this will be one of them, and it'll go down that way. I think it was funny when the Treasury Secretary was commenting on they're not sure what all those PhDs at the Fed do, and that, well, we're pretty sure what they do. It just doesn't necessarily mean that they get it right. That's a whole different topic. Gold, though, continuing its move because the debt crisis for all these countries is not ending, and it's going to be the same effect with crypto. There'll be spurts and fits of how it, breaks out from it, but there just isn't any question that people are always going to be looking for an alternative. Um, do have the positive extreme that was right here, the 115 range would be your typical low side from it. But just because you've got softness in the buying side, you're not seeing any short activity in the MBI weight per se from a strong. We just got a DOC developing on it, but you've got a full reset of steel, so any decline is going to be modest at this particular stage unless things deteriorated dramatically for some reason. ETH just gotten a long way ahead. You can see a lot of those positive extremes, so it's going to have a bit more of a dip when that does take place. But at this particular stage, also, cyan's been under red since the breakout, which is why the bars are green, and no question about that. We look at it intraday, so we had our little brief dip, NBI White led, then Magenta took over. NBI took over one more time, and we still stayed to the 50% along that end. But through that whole time, Magenta stayed over yellow, and that was just capturing all those shorts so that you can force what? Yeah, big short cover. And that's exactly what we've got right there. And even a strong DOC with the green crossing over. So shakeout having gone from full negative all the way back into the positive territory. We are seeing some positive extremes on that, so likely that we'll get some volatility that will push back into it. And that's where you look at the intraday, big drop off there. Everyone got excited to buy calls. Puts at that time, but they're buying calls, drive it up. All those buyers got swallowed up. And here in the Asian session, things were improved on the Japan news and that, but coming into the early EU session, we've just started to fall off, and that's not a surprise. The degree of pressure, though, that these other countries now have, given Japan making a deal, it's going to have to change their impetus, and if they don't, they're going to be so far behind the curve. Unless Trump delays it from August, which I don't think he's planning to do. I think they're expecting he will, that he won't do it. But is that really worth the gamble in this particular case? That's going to be the question. And I think that's what the market first is going to be eyeing all the earnings, and then that one's going to be creeping in at the back end of it. So, volatility is all that I'm saying with all of that. Be ready for it. As always, trade well. Anything relevant, I'll put it on our team chat. Have a good one.